It takes a lot to get full attention to a picture these days because we are bombarded by pictures every waking hour in one form or another. These words, spoken by Dorothea Lange in 1964, have only increased their accuracy with the passage of time. Millions of photos are shared every day through websites, news, and social media. These photographs are used to capture memories, to share thoughts or opinions, or just grab a laugh. But in today's ephemeral world, it is important to remember just how meaningful one person's photographs can be. Dorothea Lange took a stand through her photography for those whose voices America could not or would not hear. Lange's photographs of the Great Depression and the Dust Bowl exemplified her historical effort. Her photography of the Japanese-American Internment during World War II and her contributions to the development of the field of social documentary photography also serve to underscore the impact of her contributions to our social memory and to American history.
When the Depression hit, when the streets of San Francisco were teeming with the hungry, the homeless, and the angry, her portrait studio began to seem confining. She took her heavy camera out into the city to photograph the men sleeping on park benches, the crowds lining up at relief stations, the demonstrations, and the pitched battles with police. These were somber, pessimistic photographs, but she found, to her surprise, that she was happier doing that than she'd been in the studio.
The Great Depression was a nationwide epidemic, but without widespread adoption of television, most Americans relied on text and images in newspapers to get a sense of the harsh realities experienced across the nation. President Roosevelt's New Deal called into being the Farm Security Administration to monitor the effects of the Depression on the farmers and migrant workers of the Midwest. The FSA hired Lange to help photograph the condition of the migrants. Many were living in ramshackle camps, left without work, wages, or food because of the disastrous effects of the Dust Bowl, which destroyed the lands they had worked on. Lange worked to capture not only the condition of the camps, but also the resilient American spirit. Lange commented of her task, "It's very hard to photograph a proud man against a background like utter poverty, because it doesn't show what he's proud of. I had to get my camera to register the things about those people that were more important than how poor they were. Their pride, their strength, and their spirit." Lange showed that the destitute, malnourished, homeless, desperate workers were not without strength, character, or conviction, that their spirit was stronger than their despair.
She remarked once that documentary photography should ask questions, not give answers. And I think this is the hallmark of her portraiture, in that we can never be completely confident that we entirely understand these people or know what they are thinking. They retain some mystery that is the core of what makes them subjects, not just objects of pity. And it's this attraction to complexity, I think, that allowed her to achieve emotional power while stopping short of sentimentality.
One example of her photographs is the well-known Migrant Mother, a chance shot taken at a migrant pea pickers camp. Her photographs helped migrant farm workers receive the attention and assistance they needed to get back on their feet. Documenting and assisting migrant farm workers acted as a stark contrast to her origins as a portrait photographer. When asked of the impact of Migrant Mother in how pictures are used to tell a story or message today, Beverly Brannon stated,
"It is probably one of the foundation stones of our visual vocabulary today."
Bethan Morgan also commented on the impact of Migrant Mother. Today, the mother's face has become a universal symbol of strength and dignity in contemporary culture. Possessing a timelessness, her immortalized presence has fueled discourse linked to women in social issues and transcendence of class boundaries. Its extensive reproductions and reappropriations have cemented it as one of the most influential documentary photographs, as well as being responsible for carving out a new direction for documentary photography. Lange's work extended past the lives of the migrants. Lange's America included Mormons, Jews, and evangelicals, farmers, sharecroppers, and migrant farm workers, workers domestic and industrial, male and female. citizens and immigrants, not only black and white, but also Mexican, Filipino, Chinese, and Japanese. Notably, the 120,000 Japanese Americans locked in internment camps during World War II. Lange did not support the Japanese internment, but she took a job photographing it because she knew the value of visual records. Elizabeth Partridge, Lange's biographer, wrote, "She took pictures around the Bay Area of Japanese families, homes, farms, and businesses, showing how ordinary their lives were. Once they reached the internment camps, though, there were many things she was not permitted to photograph. As Lange noted, it was an example of what happens to us if we lose our heads. What was horrifying was to do this completely on the basis of what blood may be coursing through a person's veins." Although most of her photos were classified until years later, Lange's photography serves as a testament to the present generation of atrocities of our past, so that proper treatment of all Americans, regardless of ethnicity, gender, or ancestry, is ensured today. The work of Lange also inspired the style of concerned photography, the recording of the image of our world, with a social or environmental focus. It is with the FSA that Lange truly began to define social documentary photography, and began to see her images as tools for political change. Her work has influenced artists from her time such as Ansel Adams, as well as street photographers of today, including Eric Kim and Andrew Swigart. Ansel Adams once wrote to Lange, "You happen to be one of the very few who has brought enough deeply human emotion into your work to make it bearable for me." On Lange's impact on his own street photography, Andrew Swigart wrote, "Field investigation. Think about it. We observe our fellow man in the real world, living, moving, interacting. We document, we report. But after digesting Lange's work and her incredible story, I find myself wanting to take my work to a higher level." Another modern street photographer, Eric Kim, wrote, "The work of Dorothea Lange is hugely inspirational, in terms of how she lived her life, how she documented her subjects with great sincerity and emotion, and how she photographed social injustice and used her photography to raise political awareness. They and other street photographers and photojournalists carry on Lange's legacy through their recording of undeserved poverty, violence of government, gangs, mobs, or culture, and the cries of change from the people, sharing stories the rest of the world has not yet had the chance to see. Her work is emulated by countless others who wish to give voice to the unheard." Lange's photography focused on telling the stories of rural America, of migrant America, and of immigrant America, bringing to light the classes that are as much the underpinnings of the United States as the Constitution. A classroom guide prepared by the Museum of Contemporary Photography outlines Lange's contributions to her contemporary Americans. We live in a culture that is inundated with imagery. It is hard to imagine a time in our history when New Yorkers might not know what Texas looked like and vice versa. But in America of the 1930s, before television and the internet, and with fewer images in general circulation, this would have been true. Lange's photographs played a critical role in showing Americans not only the effects of the Great Depression, but also what their country looked like and how their fellow citizens lived.
If you look at historically throughout the media, before photography and before printing techniques had become on the level of the professionalism that they later became, and if even gone on further now, but from a technology standpoint, before photographs were used, I don't think people had an accurate picture and description and were able to put a face on what was going on with certain events. And Dorothea Lange was one of those photographers who was able to change a lot of that. And people really saw what poverty looked like, and they saw what desperation looked like. They saw what an internment camp looked like, and they saw what the human condition looked like. And I think that is one of the things that makes Dorothea's work so important.
Lange's photographs of the Great Depression and the Dust Bowl are a visual testament of her efforts to share the unseen story, and are reinforced by her captured imagery of the Japanese internment camps. Her stand for them was the origin of the American ideology of visual exposure, and is continued today as many more stand through photojournalism that create the banner of the hidden, the oppressed, and the weary. Her work has forever changed our nation.